see how she was pressing Tom Cotton, and she did not do anywhere close to Representative Connor.
Talk about the interview that Vice President Harris had this week. She talked about some of those policy reversals that have now been in the spotlight. She previously supported Medicare for all. She now doesn't. She favored a ban on fracking. She now doesn't. She once argued against criminalizing illegal border crossing. She now says, quote, there should have to be consequences. She said when she defended these policy positions that her values have not changed, even though her policies have. Why should people believe what she says now?
Well, first of all, I think she came off with confidence, calmness, and non-defensiveness. And I hope she'll do more of these interviews. I actually agree with your predecessor, Chuck Todd, that she should go on these weekly shows. She's very competent. And as running for president, have her views out there and take the hard questions. But let's go issue by issue on fracking. President Biden ran in 2020 on a position saying that there were going to be no new fracking leases on federal land. Our federal land is sacred, and that we were going to protect that. He did not say that we were going to ban fracking in private lands. In states like Pennsylvania, most of the fracking is on private lands. And Vice President Harris ran on that position. In the vice presidential debate, she said that Joe Biden and her were not going to end fracking on private land. So my assumption is this is the same position. She's not going to have new leases on federal land, but she's going to be fine with fracking as a transition on private land. That was what they ran on in 2020.
Well, let's delve into one of the policy positions, another one, more specifically, her initial support and now opposition to a single-payer health care system. You support that. Let's play something that Senator Bernie Sanders told Politico just
And I want you guys to see how the difference in the way she interviewed these two individuals.
Right, and they're wrong. But what am I going to do?
Are you disappointed that Vice President Harris is not running on an agenda that includes Medicare for all?
Well, I strongly support Medicare for all.
Abortion front and center this week. Donald Trump has gone from calling himself throughout the arc of time very pro-choice at one point. He's more recently bragged about overturning Roe v. Wade. He now says he's going to vote to keep Florida's 6-week abortion ban in place, a law he once described as terrible. How can people trust Trump on this issue when he keeps shifting his position?
Well, the president's been very clear. He does not support a nationwide abortion law. In fact, there's only one candidate in this race who supports a nationwide abortion law. It's Kamala Harris. And we know what it is because the Senate proposed it and we voted on it. It is radical and extreme. It would require taxpayer funding of abortion up to the moment of birth. That's what she stands for. She's the only one in this race calling for a nationwide abortion law, something that is wildly unpopular.
Just to be clear, the bill you're talking to requires that there be exceptions for health through the end of pregnancy, not that all abortions be legal in all cases.
But President Trump has said he supports exceptions when a woman's health is at risk, when she's been raped or been the victim of incest. And the vast majority of Americans support those as well. But this law is radical. It would overturn 50 years of precedent and require taxpayer funding for abortion, even in these cases.
Well, taxpayer funding for abortion is currently, of course, illegal under the Hyde Amendment. And just to be clear, abortions later in pregnancy, 21 weeks and after, are extremely rare.
Well, if they're so rare,
in the case of a health emergency.
If they're so rare, why won't Kamala Harris say, then fine, we shouldn't allow them with those exceptions?
Because
if they're
of the concern
so rare.
for health emergencies.
But if you have those exceptions, Kristen, if you have those exceptions, it will account for those rare health emergencies. So why won't she say it?
But that is what the law does. It says up to the time of viability with exceptions. States are allowed to have exceptions if there are health emergencies.
Kamala Harris voted against the Born Alive Victims Protection Act.
She did not.
Yes, she did.
Senator,
I was there.
She voted against.
I was there. She voted against it. Kristen, if these cases are so rare,
she voted
in the
against
late
advancing
term,
the bill twice.
If these cases are so rare in late-term pregnancy, then why won't she say, you know what, we should prohibit these with exceptions for the mother's life?
Yeah.
Why won't she say that? Because she is a radical on abortion.
Just to be clear, she voted against advancing the bill twice. When she was senator, she's called it extreme. Let me ask you about something else. I interviewed J.D. Vance last week. He told me Donald Trump would veto a federal abortion ban if it came to his desk. Now Trump is not committing to that. Do you?
Wow. Do you all see how she was pressing Tom Cotton, and she did not do anywhere close to Representative Connor.
When she started off with Representative Connor, notice how she named 2 or 3 policies, issues that Kamala Harris has flip-flopped on, right? And notice her demeanor. When she gets to Senator Cotton, she talks about Donald Trump being the villain because he's flipped, but nothing of the sort for Kamala.
But she asked him, the way she framed it with Trump, she says, how can people trust him?
Right.
She didn't do that about Kamala.
And she said she
just
flipped.
let it go.
She flipped. The one of the things that the left does very well is that they don't just disagree with their opponents, they villainize. They make their opponents mean, big, and scary, like they're evil, like they're, some kind of big animals. That's what they do first. So that way, if you can shape them in the eyes of the public as this big bad wolf, then of course you are right to defend yourself against the big bad wolf. This is what they do well. And she's playing the game of heads I win, tails you lose. There's no way in the world that Senator Cotton, in her mind, was going to win, because no matter what he said, it was okay for Kamala to do it, so Kamala was going to win. And then when he's saying, no, this is what she did, Kristen, she's going to say, oh no, well then what about Trump? Again, heads I win, tails you lose.
And then the crazy part about it is Trump was not flip-flopping. Trump just pushed the abortion to the states.
Exactly.
He has said he is still pro-life, but he believes that it is a state-by-state issue. It should not be a federal issue.
That's it.
Kamala has totally flipped on fracking. She's totally flipped on the border. She's totally, she stole
She
Trump's
flipped on the tips
thing. And she didn't question him on any of it. She just skipped to the next thing with Bernie Sanders. This is disgraceful.
Not one bit.
This is disgraceful.
Not one bit. And if you are, again, we've been saying this almost every week since she flipped the script and came out to be the presidential nominee, or the candidate, I should say. If you don't see this media, I don't even know if bias captures the real meaning of what is going on.
No.
I think what I'm calling this is another scam. They are trying their best to cheat, steal. Remember, the thief comes to cheat, steal, and destroy. Kill, steal, and destroy. And that's what they are doing. They are hell-bent on getting this woman. She's not really hiding from the media. They are hiding her. And that's what they're doing.
And that takes me to this next clip. So this is what the narrative that they're not even questioning Kamala Harris. They're not asking her to support her flip-flop. We've posted videos on previous shows showing how she was vehemently against fracking. She was vehemently against criminalizing border crossings. And so now she has totally done a 180, and the media has gone silent on that. And now they're trying to paint it like she's running a flawless campaign, which brings me to this disgraceful woman on The View, Alyssa.
It's on Kamala Harris's side right now, but I've been talking to a lot of pollsters, and I know how we feel about the polls. They say this: we live in such an era of polarization that she's running a flawless campaign. She could ride out on a Pegasus with bald eagles and a sword, and she's not going to pull 10 points ahead, because people tend to vote against the other party and with the jersey that they wear. That said, she's running really smart. I was at the convention for CNN. I closed my eyes at one point, and I was like, this could be Mitt Romney speaking. When she talked about supporting Israel's right to defend itself, standing with Ukraine and allies, she did say she does not support...
Sounds like Biden.
She does not support banning fracking. There's other ways to address climate change, but also care about the energy sector and the jobs that they create. And she's talking about onshoring American jobs and rebuilding the middle class. So this is not how she ran in 2020 when she ran on some things that were more to the left. She realizes the majority of this country is closer to the center. Donald Trump's too far right and too extreme for them. And if she keeps running this way for the next 60 plus days, I think she can pull it off.
What?
Yeah.
Really?
What does she say? She sounds closer to Mitt Romney, which means that these are Republican ideas that she is flipping and stealing or whatever. Kamala Harris, look, to her dumbness, I'm not even going to give her the credit that she's aware. To her dumbness, all she knows how to do is read a script, read a teleprompter, and repeat. So in that sense, I'm not even going to say she knows what's going on to that degree. But she's stealing the script. She's stealing the issues, if you will, from the Republican side that have been out there for a long time. And the media, they are hiding her. They don't want her to come out. They don't want her to get off script because she's going to ruin it for them. The media are the real culprits in this environment right now. Our media, and they have been scamming and scheming, hiding, covering up, probably before the scamdemic, but certainly since 2020.
Yeah. First of all, Alyssa is supposed to be the one conservative on The View. You know what she reminds me of? A trashy hooker. Because what she has done, she has sold herself out to The View and CNN, and she's not supporting anything conservative. She's on there just as a conservative in name only, a Republican in name only, just so she can say, I'm a Republican who doesn't like Trump.
Exactly.
And she really is a trashy hooker. She's trash because she's selling herself out for money. Right. That's what she's doing. Flawless campaign. Smart
it's not even campaign. It's not even a campaign.
Haven't even updated her website. She has not even updated her website. She did a 16-minute interview after over 30 days of silence when she was appointed as the Democrat nominee. And a flawless campaign. She has not had to answer any questions.
Zero.
Nothing.
Zero. And she walked off of that out of that car into the airplane. She, with her earbuds, just like we have in here tonight. She did the same thing, pretended she was talking to someone. She is phony. She is a fake. But the media, again, I blame the media even more because the media are not even considering or even thinking about the American people who have a right to know what her policies are, what the issues are, to hear her from her own mouth, her own brain, to flesh out an issue, the consequences, the pros and cons. They don't even think highly of American people enough to do that on the behalf of this presidency, whether you agree with Trump or not. We have a right to hear it. And our media are just as scammy and schemy as the Democrat Party. As a matter of fact, they are an extension of the Democratic Party.
Yeah. And I'll say it again. Alyssa Farah is a bimbo. She is willing to sell herself to the highest bidder and change her whole whatever she was pushing. She's no longer conservative. She needs to remove that title. She is not a conservative. She is not a Republican.
Right.
And she's willing to sell herself to CNN and The View for whatever they'll pay her to say whatever they want her to say. That's what she is. She's a bimbo, trashy hooker. I can't stand her. And this is why people like Trump, because he doesn't do that. He is authentic. He is the same no matter what. When he ran in 2016 against the establishment Republicans, he talked about the Bushes. He talked about everyone the same way he is doing now. He has not changed. And this is why Americans will trust him over lying, flip-flop, Kamala prompter Harris. I am so done with this. And in a way, I feel sorry for the everyday American because they have a lot to overcome in order to get to the truth. We have a media, a corrupt media that is clearly in line with the Democrat Party. The culture, movies, music, everything pushes you to the left. And so you have to be very strong-minded to be either independent or a Republican. You do. Yeah. And there's a lot you have to push forward, push past.
You do. In a sense, we are flexing our muscles, if you will. We're growing our muscles. We're doing the resistance, right? We're literally fighting against and be resisting against all of this culture, to be subsumed in it and to be consumed by it, sucked in, literally sucked in to this abyss, this black hole. So we have to do that. It takes effort. It takes energy to make sure sure that your mind is clear, that your mind has truth. Yeah, well, we hear some funny things. You hear some, maybe some weird stuff, whatever. But you have to really work against it mentally as well as physically to keep your mind on at least an even keel, to have a fighting chance in this cesspool of a culture that is dominated by the left, our media, the Democratic Party, and all of the perversions that they just let out of the bag 24/7.
Yeah, absolutely. And this is why we have this podcast. You guys saw, I wanted to show clearly that Kristen Welker from Meet the Press is totally biased. And anyone who watched those two interviews should be able to see she did not press Representative Kamala like she pressed Tom Cotton. Nope. I mean, it was like night and day. And this is why we want to show it. And this is why we're here. Our mantra for 2024 is for you guys to be aware and prepare. That is what we're trying to do. We want to make you aware of all of these things and then prepare. How do we prepare for it? We vote like our lives depend on it. And it does. Yeah. Our lives depend on it in this election. Because if Kamala Harris and the lying Democrats get back into office, they're going to use this as a mandate to push forward their Marxist policies. So we have to push back against it. And one person that is pushing back and putting out the facts clearly, I call him now the great communicator, Vivek Ramaswamy.
Yes.
You brought up some claims about Kamala Harris. I want to finish that discussion. She said she didn't favor a ban on fracking now. The reality is she was one of the strongest proponents of that ban, so much so that when she was in California, she sued the Obama administration over granting fracking permits. She didn't just favor the abolition of private health insurance. She was a co-sponsor of the bill with Bernie Sanders as a U.S. Senator for Medicare for All for Americans. The reality is, when you think about the Green New Deal, she was the chief proponent, not just as a co-sponsor of the legislation, but going further and saying she would end the filibuster in the Senate to ram that through. So the reality is she can say what she wants to say now. Those are actions she has taken. Is someone allowed to evolve? Of course they are. But she deserves to explain exactly why she's changed those positions, exactly what her position is. If it's not a ban on fracking, what exactly is it? What exactly is her health care plan if she no longer favors abolishing private health insurance, which just 4 short years ago when she ran for president, she did? And that's the kind of scrutiny that's been missing. I think Donald Trump has received plenty of scrutiny, and I give credit to him for sitting for hostile interviews that Kamala Harris has not.